If you're up for a good laugh, be sure to check out my comics on Instagram at J-Man's Comic Book Adventures. Alright lads and ladettes, it's London Lad Lost in Asia, and today I'm going to be talking about two important concepts for artists, which is practice and performance, right? Now this is building upon a concept that's an artist I respect talks about, and his name is Psykra. I don't know which video he talks about it on. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description below. But I remember him talking about this, and it's something that stuck with me in the back of my head. And now I'm really starting to glean what this concept means and how important it is now that I'm doing my comic, which you can go over and check out on Instagram, J-Man's Comic Adventures. And it's a really great comic. It's really funny. Go check it out, right? And I'm going to explain to you what these two concepts mean so they can help you on your art journey, right? So to begin, right, a lot of beginners, when they want to know how to become an artist, the two things they'll hear often are draw every single day and learn the fundamentals. Now, for me, like a lot of the things that I like doing, I like drawing from imagination. So you'll see these videos where I'm just drawing like this random character, and it might look a bit weird at times. It's because it's just me drawing from imagination, because that's what I enjoy doing. And I was like, let me do what I enjoy doing, which in essence, in a way, is that sort of draw every single day thing. Even though my draw every single day thing is like doing this stuff here, which is drawing along to Brad Colborough's courses, because I really enjoy his courses. They're really fun, right? But basically, right, I think that that's good advice, telling someone to draw every single day. But I feel as though people should say this, and they should say you should make it a habit, right? You should draw for a small amount of time every single day and then gradually build it up, instead of just saying draw every single day. Because some people, like me, I'm not gonna lie, like me, younger me, would just draw for 4 hours one day and then be like, yeah, I'm so good, I need to do 4 hours the next day. And maybe I do it the next day, maybe, and then I'll skip a few days because I'm like, I can't do 4 hours today, and then it won't be consistent and I wouldn't make as much progress. But now that I'm drawing every single day, and even if it is just 10 minutes, I'm making progress in that regard. And then a lot of people say learn the fundamentals. And learning the fundamentals, I agree with that. Both of those pieces of advice, drawing every single day and learning the fundamentals, are fantastic pieces of advice. Fundamentals means like figure drawing, composition, color theory, values, perspective, I don't know, solid construction. I don't know. These are the fundamentals of art, right? And people say to learn those fundamentals, right? And I feel as though that's anatomy, because figure drawing and anatomy are kind of two separate things in a way, because figure drawing is you observing the figure, right? And anatomy is sort of the invention of those things, right? If we can say it like that. Like, because you can study and look at the anatomy as well, but you're learning how to like invent, like do things from imagination. I don't know. I'm not the super professor guy, but I know some stuff. I can explain it to you guys, right? So I feel as though like you should separate these two things. Like sometimes some things should be like together, but I feel as though separating these two things is way more advantageous. And like, to use myself as an example, right? Well, every time I put out a comic, that is my performance. I'm putting out a comic for everyone to see. They can criticize it, they can say it's good, they can say it's bad, they can like it, dislike it. It's something I'm putting out there in the public in the hopes of advancing forward my skills and advancing forward my career, like to build a good foundation. Having a few comics out there and people can see my work is great. It's a body of work that I always talk about, right? So if you are making illustrations for Instagram, if you're making illustrations for DeviantArt, if people use that, ArtStation, you're making an animation for YouTube for people to see, right? In essence, most of the time, it is practice in a way, but most of the time you're doing that to perform. These are things that are like, you want people to receive them well. You want people to give you feedback. You want to showcase your skill. Like performance is essentially a piece of work that is showcasing your skill, right? Whereas you have practice, and practice is the stuff you do in your sketchbook. Practice is the stuff you do to learn new skills. Like for me, Brad Colborough's courses, they've been teaching me how to use Procreate properly, because I didn't know how to use Procreate at all, and teaching me things about cartooning, and I've learned quite a few things about color, like that I didn't actually really even think about, right? I'm learning new skills from that. And these are things that I don't necessarily need to show the world. I don't necessarily need to show the world my figure drawing practice. I don't necessarily need to show them the studies from me, like learning from Procreate. I don't necessarily need to show them practice animations that I've made, right? I can choose to, if I want to show them the behind the scenes stuff. But this stuff primarily is made to improve my skill, to better my subject knowledge so that I can perform at a better rate. And when you some people like to do these together, and you can do these together. You can make an animation for the sake of learning skills, right? Or you can, for example, for my manga artists out there, a lot of manga artists will do loads and loads of one shots, so just so they can learn how to make comics. And I do believe in that. I do believe in the idea of doing the thing to learn how to do it, right? If you're doing a bunch of one shots, right? But at the same time, for me, right, I see my comic, every single time I make a comic, I see that as a performance. I see that as me utilizing the skills that I have to make something that you guys will connect with, that you guys will connect with emotionally, or you'll like, right? Whereas anything outside of that is just me practicing. It's just me doing these random things to just kind of see, what do I need to work on? That's why I've been doing a lot of stuff from imagination, because when I do my comics, I mainly do them from imagination, because I just like drawing freely like that, right? Maybe I will use more reference in the future for certain things, and I think it's good. And sometimes I use a bit of reference, but I don't really use much. I just kind of draw, for the most part, 95% of it is just from my imagination, right? I'm not saying that you should do it, right? But that's just kind of the way I like doing these comics, because they're fast turnaround, right? Every single day at the moment, right? But for me, right, you can combine the two, definitely. And I've heard artists say this, but I like to see them as separate, because I like to see it as, right now, at the moment, I'm focusing on just learning about cartooning, learning about using different shapes for characters, using an oblong for a character's head, or an egg. I'm learning about cartooning at the moment. Or after I finish this cartooning course, I'm going to learn about animating in Procreate. After that, I'm going to do Drawbox, which is just learning which is basically learning perspective, but learning it traditionally using ink pens, right? Which is really going to help you when Inktober comes around, which is like a perspective thing. But maybe a year from now, I'm going to be really spending an hour each day doing figure drawing. I don't know, but I like having that separate time where I'm learning something, and what I learn, I can directly add it to whatever I'm performing on. And I think having these two pillars, maybe you combine them together, but having these two sort of mindsets and modes of thinking about when you're creating art is really, really good, because your practice is how you improve your technical skill, and performance is how you put on show what you know how to do. They both go hand in hand, and both of them are just as important as each other. The problem, and the reason why I'm pointing this out, the problem is I've had these periods where I'm just performing all the time, and I'm putting out a lot of work, but I'm not really improving my skills. So it's I'm putting out a lot of work, which is great. And it does, if you're just putting out a bunch of work, you will improve your skills, right? But I'm not honing in on the specific things that I need to learn to make my art better, which will accelerate at a better rate. Whereas if I just practice, right, and just focus on practice, right, all I'm doing is practicing in secret, and I'm not sharing my artwork, which does help you improve a lot. But at the same time, it doesn't help you improve, because if you're just practicing, and you're not putting things out there, you're not receiving feedback, which can really hinder you on your improvement as well. So both of these things kind of go hand in hand. And if you separate the two and you don't do both, or how do I put it? Not separate. How do I put it? Not necessarily. I think you should I personally like to separate the two, but I feel as though if you neglect either one of these two pillars, right? If you don't practice and just perform, or if you don't perform and you just practice, I feel as though it might be to your detriment. Your growth will be hindered in some sort of way, whether that may be financially or career-wise, or maybe whether that may be you being hindered in terms of your skill. I think both are so essential to learn, and it's such a good mindset to be able to have both of these things in mind. as you're progressing through your art career. And that's just all I really wanted to say. I know my thoughts are a bit all over the place with this video because there's a lot of things a lot of like mindset things that I'm like tangling with while I'm explaining this to you. But I hope you got something from this. My name is London Lad Lost in Asia, and I really don't know how to end this video.